Folks, there's some mighty good looking rugby fixtures on the horizon. Not too far away, man. It's almost June. We're more than halfway through May. And looking at this fixtures list, you can't help but get pretty bloody excited. It's been a little while since we've seen much on the international circuit, but upcoming tests, despite the fact that we're in a pandemic. So honestly, it's an amazing feat in human ingenuity, logistics, maybe stupidity, I don't know. But the fact that we've got this much rugby, international rugby on the way, is something I can only smile about. I'll go through some of these fixtures. They have been ever changing with the pandemic, and it's not an exhaustive list. There are other teams who are playing despite the ones that I've got on my whiteboard. But yeah, you guys can let me know which ones you're most looking forward to. Maybe not only the teams that I've got hanging there, because that's probably the biggest feast of rugby that everyone's looking forward to this year. But yeah, other countries are playing as well. Japan is going to be playing twice. Remember, we haven't seen Japan since the 2019 Rugby World Cup, so kind of like the Springboks in that regard. They were supposed to play in the Autumn Nations Cup initially, but ended up pulling out. Georgia ended up taking that spot. They are going to play the British and Irish Lions over in the UK before they head over to Ireland to play them as well. Now that's going to be fascinating, obviously, because you don't usually get to see Japan taking on the British and Irish Lions, and the Irish team is going to be without all of their Lions. So it's going to be a fascinating one to see. Ireland will obviously have a little bit of revenge in mind in terms of the Rugby World Cup last results, but yeah, that one should be absolutely fascinating. New Zealand, remember, they were initially going to be playing Italy, and Italy are conspicuous in their absence on this board, but again, that's one of the victims of the pandemic. So New Zealand is looking a bit more local, which I think most Kiwis would be pretty happy about. I know it's always great to see the European teams coming over here. We always seem to get bloody France, so it was a nice change to have Italy on the horizon, but I think also we're pretty welcoming of the fact that the All Blacks are going to play Fiji twice and once against Tonga. Tonga will certainly be looking to perform better than they did in that Rugby World Cup warm-up game in Hamilton. I went to that game and it was an absolute hiding. So let's hope it's not as kind of one-sided. But either way, let's just rejoice in the fact that New Zealand will be playing some of our Pacific neighbours here in New Zealand as well. The South Africans, in case you didn't know, also haven't played since the 2019 Rugby World Cup, but they are going to be taking on Georgia twice as their own kind of little preparation games. I don't know that Georgia's ever toured South Africa, but that's going to be a fascinating one as well. Great warm-up, and then the games against the British and Irish Lions. That's a big ticket one, that one. But, I mean, just the Springboks against Georgia on their own is enough to get excited about, but in this regards, it's kind of just your appetizer. Ireland, as I mentioned, are taking on Japan. They've also got USA. Ireland's schedule has also changed. Remember, they were supposed to come to the Pacific, but with the pandemic, it kind of makes more sense for them to stay in Europe, and then New Zealand to stay in the backyard as well against the Pacific countries. So, yeah, they're taking on Japan and the USA, and likewise, I think Ireland's taken on the USA a few years ago, and it was pretty comfortable. Ireland played a pretty I don't want to say disjointed. It was just like a rotated team, which kind of made sense. So how they line up against the US without their Lions will also be one to watch. Wales are taking on Canada and Argentina. 2 games against Argentina as well. And that's essentially all that Argentina's got on the card. So Argentina have it all to play for. And Wales, without their Lions, may be one that Argentina will be targeting. Remember, Argentina beat the All Blacks in Australia last year, so Argentina will not be a team to be taken lightly for sure. At least Wales get that game against Canada, and Canada gets a game against Wales. I mean, Canada, when was the last time we saw them play as well? So there's a lot of countries who haven't really been in action with the pandemic. England are taking on USA and Canada. Remember, they've got 11 Lions, the English, so a chance for Eddie Jones to also take a look at some other players. Hopefully, maybe. That tends to be what happens during the Lions tours, right? The national team coaches have to shift things around a bit. You'll see some guys get England caps who may never get capped again, or you may see someone come into the side, really set the world alight, and maybe get Eddie convinced that that's a person to take over from one of his stalwarts. So, yeah, USA and Canada. over in England should be great. I don't yet have a Romania magnet, but Scotland is going to Romania. I don't know the last time I've seen Romania play. It's certainly been too long, so good on Scotland because they are also travelling to Georgia to play Georgia. So, man, Scotland seems to be pretty good like that, actually. Scotland gets around about, I would say, more than most of the Tier 1 countries. I don't have any data to back that up, but just a gut feel. Scotland takes on countries maybe more than like some of the other Tier 1 countries who like to kind of just whack heads against each other. But yeah, Scotland's going to take on Romania. That one will be fascinating because, as I said, they're without a bunch of Lions as well. And I haven't seen Romania play for a long time, so it's a great excuse to watch them. 3 test series, which we're kind of accustomed to seeing in this window, with France taking on the Wallabies. That one's being pretty heavily promoted in Australia right now. 3 test series. The Wallabies under Dave Rennie. Hopefully resurgent Wallaby side against a pretty definitely resurgent French side. Georgia, as I mentioned, they are hosting Scotland, but they've also got the 2 away games in South Africa. And then Samoa is taking on Tonga. I believe that one's being played here in New Zealand. That one's a World Cup qualifying match as well, so there's actually some legit things to play for in that one. There's other games. There's the Māori All Blacks taking on Samoa. Uruguay's taking on like a South American 15. Spain's taking on Russia. There's other games, but there is an absolute glut of fixtures in June and July. Kind of finishing off with these teams going head to head. Remember, there's also the British and Irish Lions taking on the South African domestic teams as well. Maybe don't use World Rugby's fixtures list for this one because the Bulls game, BUL, seems to default to the Bulgarian flag on that one. They're not playing Bulgaria. They are playing the Bulls, which should be a great warm-up game as well because the Bulls are in red-hot form. But anyway, a fair few games to get through. You guys let me know your thoughts. Which games are you most looking forward to? Obviously, the British and Irish Lions one once every 4 years is such a special event, but there's plenty of other fixtures to like as well. Happy days, folks. International rugby is not too far away. You guys all take care of yourselves. Fingers crossed there's not too many changes between now and when the games actually take place. In the pandemic, who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later. Bye.